open.
Okay.
discussion.
Who's on Zoom tonight?
I'm calling the Finance Committee to order at 6:49. Sitting on this committee are Councilors Cobus and Councilor Reynolds. We are having this special meeting before the regular meeting for a motion that I did not put out at the last committee meeting that has become a dire issue. So from the docket of June 6, 2023, I entertain a motion to transfer $4,000 from account 11461-000-511000, collector salary and wages, to account 11461-000-534210, collector postage, to cover the cost of postage for the remainder of fiscal year 23.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. I knew the account was low, I didn't know it was empty. So we need to vote this tonight so that we can vote it out in the regular meeting.
Okay.
She has no money for postage. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the motion's in order. I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. All in favor say aye. Aye. That was a 1-minute finance meeting. That could be a record.
Could be. It is.
I think it is, at least for this term. Well done.
Oh, boy.
Do we have Ty here tonight?
You better be here tonight, but Ty always comes to the last minute anyways.
I don't know, why did I think somebody said it was
I'd like to call this meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7 p.m. Today marks the 79th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, and as on the solemn day, we will momentarily do a salute to the flag. After the salute to the flag, please join me in a moment of silence as the city lost a true treasure earlier in the week. Good friend, Miss Ellie Clark, passed away. Miss Ellie, as she's known, spent decades working for the police department. Council on Aging, was instrumental in Soup for Heat, and was always a smile and a compliment and a kind word for anyone she met. Miss Ellie was a dear friend of many, myself included, and she'll be missed dearly. Please join me for salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will be doing a roll call vote for attendance, as Councilor Holmes will be joining us remotely today. We'll start with Councilor Waterman. Councilors, please respond with present or here. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Waterman.
Present.
Ms. Dolan.
Here.
Mr. Conti.
Present.
Ms. Bennett.
Here.
Vice President Kobus.
Here.
Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes.
Present.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes, here.
Mr. Angelo.
Here.
Mr. Blair.
Here.
President Delicio.
Present.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We will have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas.
Thank you. We're now operating under suspended rules, and as such, there will be no public hearings tonight, as there is a special election. And as is customary, there will not be public hearings the night of elections. I would entertain a motion to go into committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you. We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Did I miss Ms. Holmes? Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes, thank you. President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone has any business to bring before the council, please come to the podium. Where there's no one to speak, I would now entertain a motion to arise from committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you. We will have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yeah.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yeah.
Vice President Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. We will now go into a reading of the mayor's communication.
June 6, 2023. Dear municipal councilors, as you recall, during the COVID shutdowns, when government bodies were meeting remotely, there was a series of executive orders and state legislative action that temporarily required most government bodies to provide remote public access to their proceedings. Public access did not and does not necessarily equate to the public participation. During that time, however, in addition to continuing the long-standing practice of providing public access via live broadcast on AACS, your honorable body also allowed remote public participation. For these reasons and more, I respectfully ask that you consider allowing for both in-person and remote public participation in all municipal council meetings.
FYI to all councilors, please.
It has come to my attention that the following reappointment was not sworn in within the appropriate time. Therefore, I respectfully resubmit for confirmation by your honorable body the following reappointment: Catherine Merkel, Zoning Board of Appeals, for a 3-year term to expire February 2026.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Park and Forestry Derek Corsi regarding the need for funds in various accounts for the remainder of fiscal year 23. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $18,036 from account 1650100-51100 park salary and wages to the following: $2,000 to account 1650100-521020 Lights and Power, $3,000 to account 1650100-524240 Equipment and Maintenance, $2,900 to account 1650100-530101 Professional Services, $136 to account 1650100-532015 Staff Development, $5,000 to account 1650100-546010 Supply Ground, $5,000 to account 1650100-548040 Supplies Equipment. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023. Copies in your packets.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the need for funds to pay electric bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2023. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $70,000 from account 6000-359000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Retained Earnings to account 6000-521020 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Lights and Power. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the needs for funds to pay heating bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2023. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $4,300 from account 6000-35900 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Retained Earnings to account 6000-521010 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Heating. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the need for funds for the 53rd payroll week. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $42,776.46 from account 6000-578360 Wastewater Enterprise Fund 53rd week to account 6000-511000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Salary and Wages. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the need for funds to conduct a hydrogeological assessment of available land at the wastewater treatment facility. Massachusetts DEP requires the city to have a 20-year capacity for sludge disposal and an approved backup solution in place 6 months prior to the closure of the primary landfill. To meet this requirement and plan for the Phase 4 and 5 landfill siting and construction, we need to conduct a hydrogeological assessment of available land at the wastewater treatment facility. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $123,900 from account 6000-359000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Retained Earnings to fund 3232 landfill site projects. Copies in your packets. And,
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Nope, just continue.
And in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
What I was going to say is nice job on hydrogeological. That'll go to Public Works.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. Hegney regarding the anticipated receipt of Public Safety Answering Point Support and Initiative Grant of approximately $165,733 for fiscal year 24 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, EOPS, State 911 Department. No match is required by the city. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve the expenditure of such funds by the Attleboro Police Department as specified within the perimeters of the grant, and also approve any further grant amendments. Copies in your packets.
Public Safety, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. Hagney regarding the donation of a Next Grill 4 burner gas grill with a retail value of $199.99 from Home Depot, Inc., South Attleboro store. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Veteran Services Ben Quell regarding the donation of Stop and Shop gift cards totaling $250 from the Attleboro Elks Artie Evans. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Kelly Lee to fill the 3-year term of Director of Council on Aging. Hooray! Term to expire February 2026. Ms. Lee was offered the position with the City of Attleboro effective June 12, 2023, under a temporary 90-day appointment in accordance with Section 3.3B of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter. Resume in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the residential meter replacement program and the shared meter expense between the city's water and wastewater enterprise departments. From May 26, 2022 to May 30th, 2023, the Water Department purchased 650 water meters and miscellaneous parts. Out of the 650 water meters, 446 meters at a cost of $240.54 were installed at locations that have water and sewer accounts, and 38 meters at a cost of $339.22 were installed of the sewer properties, being new construction. Additionally, a replacement handheld data reader at a cost of $9,511.76 was purchased this year. Wastewater Enterprise is responsible to pay for 50% of the value of those meters installed in homes with both services and 40% of the value of the handheld data reader. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $63,890.30 from account 6000-359000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to account 6000-553150 Water Enterprise Fund water meter supplies. After such time, the accounting department will work with the wastewater department to transfer the funds to the Water Enterprise Fund, copies in your packets, in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline. I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the large meter survey in the distribution system. In fiscal year 2022, your honorable body approved funding for a large meter survey in the distribution system in the amount of $49,200. Completing the project only required $37,492.90 of the funds appropriated. Surveyed were 115 meters, with 98 of those meters at properties with both water and sewer service, and 17 at properties with water service only. Per the original request, wastewater will reimburse 50% of the cost of the project for sewer properties according to the following breakdown: $37,492.90 times 115, which equals $326.03, which is the cost of the survey per meter. 98 times 326 and 3 cents times 50% equals $15,975.47. Cost of the survey for 50% of the sewered properties. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $15,975.47 from account 6000-359000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to account 6000-530170 Enterprise Fund meter survey, after which time the accounting office will work with the wastewater department to transfer the funds to the Water Enterprise Fund, copies in your packet. And in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Public Works Department, Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Recreation Dennis Walsh requesting funds to expand parking by constructing a paved parking area adjacent to the pickleball courts. If approved, these transfers totaling $25,235.70 would give a contingency of $1,585.70, which is 6.7% over the estimate of $23,650 received on April 26, 2023. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $17,676.30 to account 1630-1000-589066 Recreation Paving from the following accounts. $4,300 from 1630100-511000 Recreation Salary and Wages, $1,700 from 1630100-512020 Recreation Seasonal, $1,700 from account 1630100-524011 Recreation Maintenance of Buildings, and $9,976.30 from 1630100-584029 Recreation Outdoor Improvements per MC vote number 10 on December 20th, 2022, balance from picnic tables and benches at Ponce and Hewitt. And to further transfer $7,559.40 from account 1100630-584010 Recreation Site Improvements to account 1100630-589066 Recreation Paving. Additionally, if the lowest and best bid comes in over the budgeted amount, I hereby request your honorable body to authorize the use of this funding from the Recreation Revolving Funds to complete the projects. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from MIS Director Bill Lennox regarding the need for funds to pay a previous year invoice to GovConnection in the amount of $388. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $388 from account 11331005558010 Budget and Administration Data Processing Supplies to account 11331000-578020 Budget and Administration Previous Year's Bills. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
IT and Infrastructure Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration, Mason Lord, requesting to waive allowable permit fees associated with the Willett Elementary roof and window repairs. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body waive the following fees: the building permit and mechanical permit at 100%, sheet metal permit 100%, electric, plumbing, and gas all at 35%. Additionally, as construction is set to begin in July, I hereby request your honorable body to hold a public hearing on June 20th, 2023. In order to ensure project construction to begin as scheduled, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023. Copies in your packets.
Ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. Councilor Bennett, would you like to call for a public hearing on June 20th?
Please, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Yes. Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
I respectfully submit a communication from Keep Attleboro Beautiful regarding a donation of streetlight sidewalk light box wraps with an estimated value of $6,000. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims, please.
For your information, I'd like to inform your honorable body that I have made Assistant Zoo Director Brenda Young the acting Zoo Director. She will fill this acting position for 90 days. Brenda has been a zoo employee for 24 years.
Thank you. That's an FYI to all councilors, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Library Director Amy Ringlinger regarding the need for funds to pay electric bills for the remainder of fiscal year 2023. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $5,000 from account 1124-1000-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1610100-521020 Library Lights and Powers. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023. Finance
Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief Assessor Julie Hobson regarding the need for funds due to an increase in the Sun Chronicles subscription. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $80 from account 11411000-532015 Assessor Staff Development to account 11411000-558110 Assessor Subscription. Copies in your packets. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2023 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this prior to June 30th, 2023.
Finance.
Thank you. Sincerely, Kathleen D. Simone, Mayor.
Finance Committee, please. Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's communication this evening?
There is not.
Seeing there is no clerk's communication, we will now go into a reading of committee reports, beginning with always with Councilor Waterman.
The License Committee does not have any business to report this evening, and we will meet at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Works Committee from the docket of June 6, 2023. I move to hold a public hearing on June... Oh, okay, so that, excuse me, it's written backwards. I move to hold a public hearing on June 20th in place of the June 13th, right?
No.
That... Oh, that's right, we did we change it? We did I'm sorry, my
No worries.
apologies.
It's written correctly.
My apologies. Let me start that again. From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to hold a public hearing on June 13, 2023, in place of the June 20th, 2023, for the following loan order, which is the loan order for the $3.5 million for the design, permitting, bidding, and construction oversight costs associated with the temporary PFAS treatment facility located at the Wading River plant located at 250 Balcom Street, Mansfield.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
None. We're just going a week earlier for the public hearing.
We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to appropriate $35,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund filter press pump.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
We discussed it in committee. It's to buy backup filter press pumps.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to transfer $14 from account wastewater enterprise fund reserve fund for transfer to account water enterprise fund insurance.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
No comments. We discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. What's she doing?
Yes.
There's a delay.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to authorize the city to expend $131,900 of city ARPA funds for the Wading River Permanent Facility.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No comments. We discussed in committee.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
yes,
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
That's all the business for Public Works Committee, and we look forward to a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for the Finance Committee from the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to approve the transfer of $4,000 from the collector salary and wages account to the collector postage account.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
She's out of money. That concludes my comments.
All right, you ask, you answer. That's good. We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
yes,
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to approve the City of Attleboro's general government annual budget for the fiscal year 2024 in the total amount of $174,482,549.27.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President. The committee met and approved this and read it into the record in our last meeting. I urge my fellow councilors to support this budget in its entirety. We just saw moments ago in the mayor's communication of a bunch of departments running out of money at the end of the year. And that's because each budget this year and last year is level funded. And that's not the situation in the real world. Electricity has gone up, as we saw in the wastewater department. I do think that councilors have the opportunity during the course of the year to have an impact on the budget. And that this year, with the changes that we've had in administration, not just mayor, but also the finance budget director, that councilors should be inclined to let this budget go through in its entirety and monitor its activities over the course of the year. So in doing so, as long as I'm finance chair, I'm planning on having the finance budget director appear before the council after the first quarter, which would be September, maybe September, middle of September, to just talk about what has happened in the first quarter of the budget and then to do it again in December so that we can see the half year. And I hope that future finance committee chair people will do the same so that not only do the councils get to hear a quarterly report, but the taxpayers at home can be informed as well. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Do we have additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Before we get into the roll call vote, I just want to thank the Finance Committee for the job that they've done on this budget. This was a challenging budget for several reasons. We had to work with an abridged timeline. One, from when it came down, we had the fifth meeting, the fifth Tuesday, last Tuesday, but Council Conti, Vice President Cobus, Council Reynolds still came down, read the budget, which is a Herculean task, into the record. There wasn't a lot to cut. Kudos to our city auditor, Deb Gould, and the mayor for being able to overcome a lot to get a balanced budget in front of us. So if there's nothing else, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
yes,
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to approve the following budget message for fiscal year 24 budget. And even though we read this in committee, Mr. President, I would like to read the budget message again tonight.
So I'd appreciate you doing that. However, my request would be, should we vote the rest of the budget pieces in and then go back to the budget
That
message?
makes perfect sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
So, from the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to approve the expenditure limits for the following revolving accounts outlined under Chapter 20 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro fiscal year 2024. And we did read these during committee, and we all have them in front of us, so I'd like to waive the reading.
Second.
Granted. Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments, questions, concerns?
These are stable. These revolving accounts have, during the year, we've made motions to increase them, and I think there was only one that we increased. But the revolving accounts serve a very valuable, very valuable purpose, that monies that are collected in permits and fees are designated specifically for typically capital improvement programs. And that concludes my comments.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Before we get to a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman, may I ask, Councilor, that when you bring down the finance team, that they also provide updates on the revolving funds?
Yes.
Just so we can stay on top of it, so we don't have any more surprises. Thank you. We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes? Ms. Holmes? Thank you. Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to approve the proposed water and wastewater enterprise budgets for fiscal year 2024. The water budget being $8,295,700.01, and the wastewater enterprise fund being $10,586,752.32.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I hope they can do it with this. That concludes my comments. They live in a difficult world.
Agreed. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Vice President Cobus.
I wouldn't take what Councilor Conti said lightly when he said he hopes they can do it with this, because even though we're raising the rates here, we had a long discussion last week about should we be raising this more in order to increase the amount in the revolving fund here. There isn't much left there, and because we've essentially emptied those funds there, but because we are raising the rate, we talked about not being able to raise it much more. So one of the things that Councilor Conti and we agreed on putting in the budget message was asking for a policy talking about how we should, a policy for increasing the rates so that we gradually increase the water and wastewater rates so that we have a stable revolving fund, or fund there, so that we're not just all of a sudden raising the rates a huge amount 1 year, to try to make up for keeping them stable or at a flat rate year over year. So when Councilor Conti says, I hope we can make it on this amount, that's an understatement. So I just want to reiterate what he very carefully said there, but it's an understatement to say the least.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? I think one thing I would like to add is I think when we think about water and wastewater, we think about the city growing, we think about the needs growing, we think about the aging facilities we have across the city. We need a new wastewater, certain components of certain wastewater facilities, water facilities. It's an aging infrastructure. So I appreciate the warning. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
yeah,
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to approve the water fee of $5.99 per 100 cubic feet. This is a 48-cent increase from fiscal year 2022. And this rate applies to a consumption on or after July 1st, 2023. Bills that span the old rate and the new rate will be prorated appropriately as they were for the previous rate increase.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President, I have been in a debate with myself for an entire week and a half on what to recommend to councilors on this, because I've got the good counselor and the bad counselor sitting on my shoulders, and one argument is that the good counselor is saying water increases should be gradually because household budgets are being stressed tremendously in an inflationary period, and our water rate is higher than the water rate in North Attleboro already, and people can only conserve water so much that it's a need. And the bad counselor is saying, you know, this is a bad financial policy because we have a dangerously low reserve for the enterprise accounts, and there's this concept that the enterprise fund should have enough in a reserve to be able to handle a minor emergency or minor problems that happen. There's no way there can ever be enough money to cover a break like we had on South Main Street. And, I mean, they spent $1 million in 24 hours. So it also, in the middle of this, was thinking that, you know, these are taxpayer dollars, you know, that how much of a reserve can you justifiably build up on the backs of a tax rate. So in the end, I decided not to recommend a change to this motion, that both this and the wastewater, I'm going to encourage my councilors to support that. These enterprise funds are a real challenge, and I was economizing my words back then when we were talking about the budget, because it's most appropriate, I thought more appropriate to talk about it in the fee. Well, how much do you pay for water? And understand that 100 cubic feet of water is a lot of water for $5.99. It's 78 bottles of water. That's a lot of water. So I think it's still a bargain at $5.99 a 100 cubic feet, but I'm not prepared this year to increase it. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. I agree. I wouldn't have been in favor of increasing it. And, you know, we're talking about how dangerously low the money is, but back in 2020, we had the opportunity to increase the fees for a lot of what water and wastewater came before us, for the new water mains, you know, and I've gone over this, I've said this before, and what they have to pay for police details, and all the work that, and to have to take 2 people off the job to be there on site for all the new construction and other items that they do for fees that we charge for permit fees and per linear foot of the water main, so on and so forth. Back in 2020, they came to us, both of them, water and wastewater, to increase these fees, and we only allowed some. And like when we talked about in budget, when I said to Tom and Courtney that they need to come back, because there's no reason for us to break even or lose money on these projects. There's no reason for it. And, you know, we're talking about the money being dangerously low, so then let's do something about it. And if we're concerned about on the backs of taxpayers, then this is exactly what we should be doing. We should be revisiting these fees and raising every single one of them, because we had the opportunity to do it in 2020 and we didn't. So, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Mind if I ask one question, sir?
Sure.
Did I hear you right, Councilor Conti, that you are voting against this?
No, I'm voting, I'm
You're voting
supporting.
for, okay, that's right.
And I'm urging all councils to support.
Okay, all right. I thought you said something at the end and I heard you wrong. My apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16th, 2023, I move to appropriate $120,140 from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund the fiscal year 2024 Water Enterprise budget.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
So, there was another debate going on in my brain about this vote, and I came to the same conclusion, that if there is $120 left over in retained earnings, that's money that's been gained on the water rate, and one argument is that put it into the reserve account to bolster it, but the other argument is that, you know, these are taxpayer funds that were paid in excess of what was needed to run the department, that they should be returned to the taxpayers, and so that's what won. So I'll be supporting this measure, and I encourage my councilors to also support it, because I think fiscal year '23 is going to be financially challenging for the households in Attleboro. And that concludes my comments.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yeah.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16th, 2023, I move to approve the wastewater fee of $10.52 and $11.42 per 100 cubic feet for residential and industrial respectively. This is a 32-cent increase from fiscal year 2022, and the rate applies to consumption on and after July 1st, 2023.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
I'll just say ditto. You know, this was all part of the argument, and I would encourage my fellow councilors to support this measure, and that concludes my comments.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to appropriate $14,629.10 from the Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund the wastewater betterment share of debt in the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, it's like yikes. Out of the whole year, all that's left is $14,629. That illustrates perfectly what we were saying about the wastewater budget. It is tight, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to appropriate $250,000 from the Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund the fiscal year 2024 wastewater enterprise budget.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Yeah, I got my two motions mixed up. Actually, what I said in the last one, I should have said for this one. $250,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't, not on a $10 million budget. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
I heard a yes.
She said
She
yes.
said yes.
Okay. Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to transfer $752,571.99 from Fund 6100, which is the Water Enterprise Fund, to the General Government Fund to fund the indirect costs for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
As to the public who don't understand what this is to compensate the city employees who do work on behalf of the water department throughout the course of the year to refund their salaries back into the general fund. And that process and that amount is going to be explored again next year. That concludes my comments.
Did you say that was just for salaries, or was it for the services rendered by?
It's salaries and services.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
yes,
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion
Thank
passes.
you, Mr. President. From the docket of May 16, 2023, I move to transfer $696,338.10 from some Fund 6000, which is the Water Enterprise Fund, to the General Government Fund to provide funding for the indirect costs for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President. The last motion was for wastewater, for water. This motion is for wastewater. They both share in the same project. And that concludes my comments.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
yes,
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And finally, for tonight, from the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to approve the following budget message for the fiscal year 24 budget. Dear Mayor DeSimone, on May 2nd, 2023, you presented the Municipal Council a balanced budget which does not depend on the use of free cash for the first time in 6 years. Thank you for heeding our fiscal year 23 message. Thanks also to Deb Gould and Laura Gignac for the extraordinary budget work in this unusual administrative year. The Finance Committee held budget meetings with department heads May 9th and May 23rd. During the meetings, this committee heard from the following departments: Personnel, Auditor, Veterans, Police, Fire, DPW, Planning, Elections, Council on Aging, Health, Parks and Forestry, Water, Wastewater, Library, Treasurer, Recreation, Assessor, Building Inspector, and the Attleboro Public Schools. The council commends the department heads for the frank discussions during this challenging year. Persistent issues in personnel, inflation, and escalating contract costs continue to raise concerns for the council. Most notably, how will revenues meet the challenge? The addition of a grant originator position may be worth exploring. Fees and rates should be reviewed. Retained earnings in the enterprise account should not be maintained at a dangerous level. The completion of the traffic control unit staffing will contribute to revenues and street safety. $975,000 in new growth in the residential and commercial sectors for the coming fiscal year is an improvement and shows a strong business environment. The change in allocation for a snow deficit, a $500,000 capital improvement line item, is a much appreciated improvement. The council is also appreciative of the budgeting for a review of the indirect costs from the enterprise funds. The Finance Committee has concerns for the impact of the end of the ESSER funds on our education budget and the school's ability to meet operational financial demands without layoffs in fiscal year 25. We feel this is going to be one of the most critical items to prepare for in the next budget. We ask for quarterly updates from the Education Department and Budget Director. This honorable body is well aware of the upcoming fiscal challenges in PFAS, wastewater, building survey results, Council on Aging facility, public safety complex, special education tuition, and special education transportation. We hope to maintain support services and staff throughout the coming fiscal year. Sincerely, Richard Conti, Chair, Todd Cobus, Vice Chair, and Sarah Lynn Reynolds, Member.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, I am very proud that we approved the budget on June 6, 2023. This affords the auditor and the clerk to get their paperwork done through the Department of Local Services, and to push the budget along with undue stress. I cannot thank enough our city auditor, Deb Gould, and Laura Gignac. Even though I mentioned them in the letter, they deserve sincere appreciation from the taxpayers in the city of Attleboro for a true yeoman's job. This year was a real challenge. From the first time I met with the mayor, which was in April on the budget, through now, it's been a whirlwind. And Counselor, Mr. President, you were budget chairman before me. You know, and in fact, in my tenure, I'll go as far to say as you're probably the best budget chairman that I've served under. And I've tried to sincerely meet your performance level, and it's challenging. It's very challenging. It's a lot of work, and I'm really happy it's over. And that concludes my comments.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the sentiments. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Angelo.
I don't really say a whole lot, but kudos to you and the other councilors on working on this. I and I'm sure the rest of the councils appreciate all the hard work that all you guys have done, and thank you so much for taking that and doing such a great job.
Additional questions, comments? Councilor Bennett.
Thank you. Just one comment. I want to second and sort of echo Councilor Conti's sentiment with regard to what we saw from the directors of each of the departments. What I really appreciated was the forward-looking attitude they all had with anticipating potential problems during the year. I think that gives us an opportunity to really keep an eye on this and to make sure that we can quickly adjust as problems do arise. Hopefully there aren't any. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Conti.
Councilor Bennett brings up a very good point. This budget that we just approved is just a preliminary budget. It's not the budget. The supplemental budget that we'll be talking about in October, November is the real budget, and that's where the rubber hits the road. And by then, our budget director will be in place and functioning, and by then we'll also have a little bit more history of what we're facing. But I too appreciate, and it was through direct questioning, asking the department heads, what do you see coming down the pike? And for some, there aren't any surprises. But for some, they're very concerned, and for good reason. So it's going to be an interesting year, and thank you. That concludes my comments.
Additional questions, comments? Vice President, I'd like to give up the seat. Thank you. I'd like to echo a lot of the sentiments that were already made here this evening. One thing that's vital to understand is, again, a level funded budget, 10, 12, 13 years in a row, is actually a decrease in the budget. A level funded budget in this day and age, with inflation and cost of goods what it is, we're going to feel it more and more. We're going to continue to feel it more and more. To be able to get a budget put together in the time constraints that Council Conti had to do this from our perspective. Again, last week was the 5th meeting, so we couldn't have done it then. We had to have the public hearing in in May, in order to be able to vote it out within the 45 days. In order to be able to do this without a budget and administration director since February, the long hours, weekends, nights that Deb Gould put in cannot be undersold, nor can it be understated. Deb Gould stepped in when the city needed her most. And I think that the city owes Deb Gould, as I know this body does, and we recognize that, owes her a debt of gratitude. For a new mayor to come in, third mayor in 2 months, essentially, to come in and be able to get to know department heads, get to understand this budget, understand that we needed to get a budget done. We can't have public hearings tonight because it's an election. Therefore, we had to do it earlier than we would. That 45-day time frame that we have to deal with is very, very real. At first, when Councilor Conti approached me about doing 2 marathon nights for all the budget hearings, I'm like, this guy's nuts. However, looking back, Councilor, it was the right call. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of questioning, but this participation from this council, not just in those 2 nights, the special meeting on Thursday, I'm sure we all watched it if we weren't here in person. This was, you said yeoman's work, I agree with that 100%, and I thank you for the effort that you put in. This was really a tough budget, and, you know, I know that Council Conti is very critical of the budgets usually, and when he says that this is the type of budget that he would have passed, that he would have presented, I think we need to take heed on that. Thank you. Additional questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
yes,
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to tell you that concludes the business the Finance Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Well done, Mr. Conti.
Thank you.
Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's no business for Transportation and Traffic this evening. And reporting for Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee, I have one motion this evening. From the docket of April 18th, 2023, I move to approve the following ordinance changes to Section 9 and Section 20 of the Attleboro City Ordinances. Section 9-2, license and permit fees, increase the following fees: neutered male, $10, spayed female, $10, replacement of lost tag, $10, adoption of dog, $300. Section 9-2, license and permit fees, delete the following fee: feline adoption, $90. Section 9-2, license and permit fees, add the following fee: city-run rabies clinic vaccination, $20, dogs and felines. Request for revision of Section 9-41.2, the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, delete Section 9-41.2 in its entirety and replace with the following: 9-41.2, the owner of an impounded dog shall be entitled to resume possession of any impounded dog once it is licensed. A fee will be assessed to the owner for the intake of the dog by an animal control officer at the rate of $25, and the boarding of the dog at the shelter at the rate of $25 per day. The owner shall also be required to pay the costs incurred by the city for the services of a veterinarian to render emergency care or treatment to a dog impounded in the city's animal shelter. Request for revision of Section 20-11.2, 20-11.3, the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. Delete Section 20-11.2 in its entirety and replace with the following: 20-11.2 revenues, the city auditor shall establish the Animal Welfare Fund number 2615 as a separate fund and credit to the fund 1/3 of the income generated by the adoption fee derived under the city ordinances 9-2 as amended for both dogs and felines. 100% of the income generated from fees collected during city-run rabies vaccination clinics derived under city ordinances 9-2 as amended for both dogs and felines, and to receive $1 of every fee collected pursuant to Section 9-43 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. Delete Section 20-11.3 in its entirety and replace with the following: 20-11.3 purposes and expenditures during each fiscal year. The Animal Control Officer, with the approval of the Superintendent of Parks and Forestry and the Mayor, may incur liabilities against and spend monies from the Animal Welfare Fund number 2615 for the purpose of direct services for the care of animals, such as medical treatment, spay and neutering of animals, food for animals, and to pay for any expenses incurred with the supplies, structure, and organization of a city-run rabies clinic. Prohibited expenditures are building maintenance, facility care expenses, and salary and wages.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order, any comments?
Yes, I asked Virginia to distribute out to the counselors an answer that I received from Derek Corsi regarding the questions that were raised by Counselor Reynolds at the committee meeting for the adoption fee of the dogs in particular, going up from $90 to $300. Understanding that that might look like a steep increase to the council. when looking at the comparative data and in the email that was distributed, $300 is about right in the middle. We have a range of 175 up to 525 in some of the local towns and communities used for comparison. The average tends to be somewhere more in the 250 to 350 range. When looking in particular at the vet bills incurred for the dogs, you'll see in the chart that was distributed that we're just about breaking even with this $300 adoption fee. Anybody that has a pet, and in particular a dog, you have I'm sure, a deep appreciation for the costs of veterinary care. These are just for regular, routine, recurring vaccinations, making sure that the dogs are healthy, making sure they have everything they need in order to be adopted. And the costs hover close to $300, I mean, just under that, depending on if it's male or female. And so, after looking at that data, I'm going to encourage the council to vote for this. I think the $90 fee that hasn't been changed since 2004 is really, it's just too low for what they do for these dogs. And so I think that the $300 fee is fair, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments? Councilor Angelo, then Councilor Dolan.
I work with a lot of rescues, and I see a lot of going on, and the $300 is definitely a fair cost. The only thing that concerns me is what I have seen with a lot of rescues is that if they were to take in a dog that's been up to date in shots, been neutered or been spayed, that $300 cost would not be there. It would be the cost of what was the shelter or the rescue would have to put into it. So that's the only thing that's a little bit concerning to me. But I have stated that $300 is fair. It is fair, I feel, if they are putting those services to the dog. I'm just not so convinced if it's fair if they're not putting the services to the dog. And that's kind of where my concerns are.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. I'll support, I definitely support this. Of all the dogs that I've had throughout my life, and they've all been rescues, have never been under $300. And I get what you're saying, Councilor Angelo, but, some dogs they have there are lengthy, and they still feed them and do everything for them, if they come in neutered or not. And then they have to, the shots and just the care and all that stuff. So I'll definitely support this. And just I've gotten a couple calls on the feline adoption thing, if you don't mind. We're just deleting that. We're not giving cats away for free. We're just deleting it because the city doesn't have ordinances on cats. So this $90 fee has been in there forever, and it just kind of straps Friends of Attleboro Animal Shelter and what they can charge for an adoption fee. So if we get rid of this, then, it can be lower, it can be higher, whatever, depending on the needs of the cat or whatever. So I just want to make it clear to the public that we're not handing out cats for free. Because people in the animal rescue are against that for numerous reasons. But I will support this in its entirety. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yeah.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business for our Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee, and we look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Vice President Cobus.
IT and infrastructure doesn't have anything tonight. We call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes.
And I think she was hoping somebody could read her business, and Councilor Conti
Councilor
is.
Conti, yes.
Is that so, Counselor? I'll be happy to assist you here. Reporting for Zoning and Land Use Committee. From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to appropriate $80,000 from the undesignated fund balance, free cash general government, to the planning SPAC 5-year account.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President. This is a mandate of which we really don't have any say. So I would encourage fellow councilors to support it, and then that concludes my comments.
Additional questions, comments, concerns from the council? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
yes,
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman. President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the business of the Zoning and Land Use Committee. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Councilor Reynolds.
Reporting for city property and claims. From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to accept the generous donation to the City of Attleboro Fire Department of 15 new reclining chairs with an approximate value of $12,749.55 from Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I would like to explain where this came from originally. So there is a firefighter's wife, I don't think I really have to mention her name, but she has been working with Cardi's to try to help the school systems update the teachers' rooms and whatnot. And then she got to thinking a little bit about it, and she decided in her thank you note to ask Cardi's, explaining to them that the headquarters, the South Attleboro Station, Briggs Corner Station, and Twin Village actually could use new recliners too, and would they consider it maybe one per station. And anyway, they ended up giving 5 recliners to the headquarters, 5 recliners to the South Attleboro Station, 2 recliners to Briggs, and 3 to Twin Village. And that's how it came about. So it was worth her reaching out and asking, and they okayed it, and that's where it came from.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Thank you to Nairobi and Cotties.
Yes.
Thank you to the individual for
Reaching out.
reaching out, absolutely. This will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes. Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of April 18th, 2023, I move to transfer $30,000 from account citywide reserve fund for transfer to account city solicitor. Additional funds are needed for the remainder of fiscal year '23 due to an increase in matters that involve litigation.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, so I want to clarify what it was for. So there's a couple of things. First of all, it's not suits against the city under the insurance policies. Those, we are going to meet together like we normally do because there's a couple that are coming up, and so we'll start to discuss that. But our new solicitor is a principal in the firm, so he makes a little more than the prior solicitor per hour. He's also currently reviewing all the legal language and updating all of our well, not really ordinances, but everything legal that the city deals with that comes through the mayor's office, and he's updating the language. Some of them haven't been looked at in years. So because that's a very time-consuming process, he's now working 2 days a week in the office upstairs doing that. And that will last until the end of the fiscal year, and he'll go back to 1 day. So hence the increase this fiscal year of the additional monies needed.
Questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Conti.
Who asked for the legal language to be reviewed?
I think he had just, when he became the city solicitor, started looking at things and said it was, some of the writings were no longer proper the way that, so he noticed it and thought they should be clarified or updated. The few times even we've been up there to discuss with him different things, he will say when we've been in his office, wow, that really shouldn't read that way. It should read this way based on the way what you're trying to make happen here. So he's reviewing all things in that matter.
Thank you.
If I can add what I would say, I'll speak after Councilor Bennett.
Oh, thank you, President Lucio. So, am I understanding, did the mayor specifically request that service to be done?
I think that, I don't know if.
I'll take it, Councilor.
Thank
if you
you.
don't mind.
Thank you.
So what ended up happening is, as Mr. Mello came on board, he's very thorough. And as he was, whether it was reviewing contracts, I think the AACS contract's a good one, he found some language that is outdated, that doesn't serve the same purpose that it might have 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I believe it's more or less as things are coming across his desk. It's not like he's just going like, hey, I really want to
That's
cha-ching,
right.
cha-ching, cha-ching. Let's take this contract, let's take this. It's as things come about, he's given it the extra once over, which I think has been prudent.
Very.
And I think a lot of times in contract law, you get to the point where it's just, oh, here it is, sign it, it's boilerplate. Things change, so I applaud Peter Mello for what he's doing.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Miss Reynolds.
Yes.
Miss Holmes.
No.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Miss Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Miss Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes,
9 yeas, 1 nay.
thank you. Motion passes. Councilor Reynolds, before you adjourn, I'd like to make a request that we look to having City Solicitor Mello come down to executive session so we can discuss this and other matters as well that are in front of us, as I think that we've seen some of the legal fees go up. So I think it's prudent for us to get together as
Agreed.
a council and talk with the solicitor.
I had thought that that would be best done after the, well, also after the budget, but also because we're hiring on new, come on,
After
help
the
me here.
election this
Another
season.
city, yeah, after the election.
Yep, I think that's fine. I think
Brain went right out the window, but I thought that would be the best time to do it.
even if it's September, that's fine.
Yes, okay, thank you. So that is all the business for city property and claims this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee. From the docket of June 6, 2023, I move to accept the generous donation of Stop and Shop gift cards totaling $60 to the Veteran Services Office of the City of Attleboro from an Attleboro resident.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Blair. Motion is in order. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you to this anonymous Attleboro resident. Thank you very much.
Good. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Miss Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Miss Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Miss Holmes.
Yes.
Miss Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
On the next one, I am going to be amending this on the floor, and on the school committee, we do not have the information that we need just yet, so we're going to be deleting that, and then we'll bring that out at a later time when it's appropriate, when we have, more information that we need. So I apologize if I make any mistakes here, and President Delicio, feel free to correct me if needed. From the docket of March 7, 2023, public hearing was held on May 16, 2023. I move to approve the following amendment to section 13-5.3 by deleting the below sections in their entirety. Section 13-5.3 and section 13-5.4 last amended 11/16/2010. Effective January 8, 2012, the annual salary of each member of the municipal council shall be $7,727. Amended on the floor, effective January 8th, 2012, annual salary of each member of the school committee shall be $3,863.50. And we're going to replace it with the
So,
following.
point of order.
Yeah.
I would read and replace with the following, and then we can amend on the floor.
So
Okay.
skip that, yeah.
Yeah, all right. All right, so I'm going to, and replace, all right, so I'm going to read and replace with the following and then amend on the floor?
And then we'll do the two amendments, yes.
Okay. And replace with the following,
So you read this.
yeah.
And
Sorry.
you're skipping this for now.
Yeah.
Going back to that.
Yeah.
And amending. You took this out.
Yeah.
You removed that. You're gonna read this,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. And replace with the following, section 13-5.3, council effective January 1st, 2024. The annual salary of each member of the municipal council shall be effective January 2nd, 2024. The annual salary of each member of the municipal council shall be $9,727. Effective January 7th, 2025, the annual salary of each member of the municipal council shall be $11,727. Effective January 6th, 2026, the annual salary of each member of the municipal council shall be $13,727.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments
We discussed this,
or amendments?
oh, okay, sorry. Amend on the floor, effective January 8th, 2012, the annual salary of each member of the school committee shall be $3,863.50.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Thank you. Counselor Angelo, any comments?
Well, on the salaries for the municipal council, we discussed this in committee.
This is on the amendment for the school committee
All right,
to
sorry.
remove the effective January 8th, 2012.
All right, so that is, we're gonna bring that back at a later time, when we have more information.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions on this? Counselor Conti?
I'm confused. So straighten me out. The amendment is, was there a dollar amount in the amendment?
So, if memory serves, when this was brought in March, I wasn't sitting here at that point. Part of the original motion had the school committee in there. Mr. Angelo's research he didn't have the opportunity to fully vet the school committee piece of this, so we're removing anything to do this, and I believe the next amendment will remove the school committee. This vote tonight will focus squarely on the municipal council.
So the vote we're about to take is to remove the school committee from the motion.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Have a roll call vote on the amendment, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
yes,
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicia.
No.
9 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you. Motion passes. Councilor Angelo.
Yes, so now I'm reading
As amended.
as amended. All right,
There's still one more amendment before.
one more amendment, which is on the school committee. So, amended on the floor to remove school committee, section 13-5.4, school committee member, effective January 1st, 2024. The annual salary of each member of the school committee shall be determined.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Councilor Angelo.
We will be further researching this and bring this out at a later time.
Okay, so again, this is just to remove anything to do with the school committee from this piece of the the ordinance, and it's going to keep the salary in the ordinance book as $3,863.50 for the school committee. Ms. Angelo is saying he will bring back the discussion for the school committee at a later time. Vice President Cobus.
I'm not comfortable moving forward with this now with it only being us in the city council. I would rather, we have until the election in November. Is that not true?
No, we don't.
Councilor Angelo.
From what I understand, we have until the end of June, because you need 18 months to get this. So from what I understand, for the city council has to be done by the end of June. And there hasn't been, from my information, and the information that I've gotten so far from the school committee, hasn't been enough to generate a change at the moment, and there's going to be further research that's going to be done at a later time that is going to work on the school committee.
Counsel Reynolds.
I want to add to that, that the school committee themselves have not provided the information that the counselor requested. They've been kind of putting it off, and willing to, was okay with this not happening tonight and happening at a later date. But I believe it is true that it has to be, in order for this to be effective, it has to be approved by the end of the fiscal year.
Mr. Conti.
Let's talk about the 18 months. The end of June, 18 months would be January 2025, not January 2024.
It's not 18.
It's from the beginning of the, 18
This
months
term.
from the beginning of this term.
This term.
So
The
it would-
ordinance says that the city council cannot change the salary for themselves. You have to change the salary for future councils.
which this would then
Yeah.
take place for the next term, where the term ends December 31st. So
Our
the
jobs
charter's
are up December 31st.
That's right. Which is this term, the 2 years, the year 2022 and 2023. There's the 18th, that's the thing, that's why it has to end June 30th, because that's the, well, in order for it to hit the 18 months and get us into 2024.
So additionally, I had the thought that since the school committee has a finance subcommittee and they approve their own budget, they could vote themselves their own raises if it wasn't for the fact that it's in the ordinances.
correct.
So therefore, if the school committee does decide to raise their salaries and has it in their budget to do it, they could then approach the city council and say, we budgeted for an increase and we need for you to change the ordinance. Let the
Yes.
school committee be self-determining.
Yes,
Which would then trigger the series of events in terms of the public hearing and everything else of the like.
Which
yes.
brings my final point, that I won't be supporting this simply because it's not in the budget that we just approved. Sorry, but if you want to make it January 2025, then it can go into the next budget to fund these salaries for that future year. So under these circumstances, this motion does not have my support.
Thank you.
And that concludes my comments.
Counsel Reynolds.
I understand what you're saying, but I did have a long discussion and several discussions with the mayor, who said it's not like they couldn't, as she agreed prior to being the mayor and being a counselor, she was in favor of this happening. And the bottom line is that when we discussed it, it's unfortunate that the city council has to basically vote their own raises. I mean, that's just ridiculous that we even have to bring it out, that no one has ever put it somewhere and attached to something. And she also agreed with that. She was the one that recommended, actually, and I think this would be seconded by this counselor, is that don't do it all in the 1 year. Can we handle it? They could handle $2,000 a year. That was her and Deb Gould's thought process. If you would do that, we could make it happen. And that was what they proposed. And that is why it didn't go immediately, so that it would have increased. The 10 years, going to be 13 years if it doesn't, you know what I mean? So, I mean, the bottom line is that they were comfortable with doing it over 3 years, and that's why we're doing it that's why it's coming out over a period of 3 years.
Counsel Angelo.
And just to reiterate what Councilor Reynolds is saying is, it has the full approval of the mayor, it has the full approval of Deb Gould. And as she did say, it was because when I originally proposed it, I took comparables right to the city. And what I found from everybody was they're meeting half the amount of time and they're making double the amount of money of what the city councils are. So to get this appropriate to other comparable cities in Attleboro, this is what we did. And I was first asked the mayor about doing this all at once. And then to Councilor Reynolds' point, it was, if you do this 2,000 a year over 3 years, that we can work, and that'll work fine within the budget.
So
Something
Yeah.
you'd add?
I'd like to add that I think everybody's trying to be fair here. Regardless of whether this passed or doesn't pass, we're still going to be the lowest paid city council in Massachusetts. Even Taunton is going up, and going up even substantially. Even by our third year, they're still going to be ahead of us. Everybody will be way ahead of us and are all working half the time that we work. So I don't think it's I think it's unreasonable that we have to be the ones that ask, but I don't think it's unreasonable that we're finally at a position where it's a cost of living raise, basically, compared to all the other works and stuff that we do outside of just being here.
Additional comments? Councilor Blair?
I more than likely will not be here after January 1st. But I served on this body because I thought it was the right thing to do, not a dollar value. And I stand by that. When I first come on, I not only lost business because in order to serve on this council, I couldn't service the accounts with APD, Public Works, Fire Department, Park Department that I had. But I've enjoyed it, and I got no regrets. But it never was about money to me. I know things are tight with everybody, and maybe if you weren't serving on this council, you could find a part-time job somewhere. But I've always considered this a public service. The 24 years I've been here, I never looked at it as a paycheck. So, God be with you after the first year if you get a raise. It's well-deserved, don't get me wrong. If you do this job right, you put in a lot of time. The main thing, and I've said to a member of this council, don't put your whole life on this semicircle. Save some time for your family. It's important. And this isn't a dollar and cents job. You're here because you're a public servant. End of comment.
Thank you. I'm going to give up the chair.
President Delicio?
Thank you. First of all, serving as president this term has been an honor. It's been a privilege. I've been able to see how hard each and every one of you work. And when I look at the $7,727 a year that we make, it surely is low, especially compared to what other communities earn. However, I cannot in good conscience support this measure right now. We just had Councilor Conti talk to us about the dire situation that this budget's in. I'm concerned, as I've been saying for the last 3 years, what fiscal 25, fiscal 26 is going to look like. I agree with Councilor Reynolds that it's an awful position for us to have to ask for a raise. But now we're going to do that to the school committee. We're going to say, hey, come on down in front of the council, because we're going to get our raise first, then we'll get you yours if you decide you want it. If this is going to be done, I think it needs to be done combined with the school committee. I think it has to be at a time where we're not sitting here talking about having to raise rates on the residents to be able to ensure that our enterprise funds are where they need to be. You know, we don't enter this line of work for the money.
Right.
As Councilor Blair said, we do it to help our residents, our neighbors, our friends. That's why we do this. So I would like to think right now is not the time. I think it would come across tone deaf to the rest of the residents in this city for us to be taking a pay raise when we're underfunding education right now, where we're talking about raising rates on water and wastewater. And please note, colleagues, there's no one who deserves it more than every single one of you sitting around this horseshoe. Now is not the time. There will be a time, and it's deserved. There's never a good time, and I think that's truth. But to me, the timing of doing this on a night where we just voted the budget, and as Councilor Conti said, we didn't budget for this. And In fairness, it's not just $2,000, it's $2,000 per counselor. It's $22,000 a year over the next 3 years, it's $66,000. And here we are 2-3 weeks ago, fighting over fireworks money? Money that was already in a donation account, which was designated for that purpose. I just can't, in good conscience, support this right now. And that concludes my comments. Vice President, all right, Vice President Cobus.
Thank you, President Delicio. I agree, unfortunately, with everything you said there. And I don't think anybody sitting around this horseshoe does this job for the money. None of us do it for the money. And I am supportive of voting for a raise. I think we should vote for this in general. And I think spreading it out over 3 years is the right thing to do. But having served in the military for so long, one of the things that they sort of beat into our heads is leaders eat last. Whenever there was a chow hall line, the higher enlisted people would always wait for the lower enlisted people to eat first. And I'm not going to get a raise, vote in favor of a raise for ourselves without having our fellow school committee members also getting a raise at the same time. I'm not going to vote in favor of that. If we could all do it at the same time, I would be okay with doing that. I think it is deserved. But unless we can all do it at the same time, I'm not comfortable voting in favor of it.
Thank you. Councilor Bennett.
This one's a tough one. Having served in a volunteer capacity for the city, I can tell you this, the difference for me being on the city council is not a volunteer job. This is not, when it comes down to, yes, at the end of the day, when I figure out the number of hours I put in, it's essentially volunteer, but it's not intended to be a volunteer position. If people want to engage in the city as a volunteer, they don't expect anything in return. There's plenty of opportunities to do that and to use your talents, but thinking of the council as ahead of us, thinking of the next council in January, I can't in good conscience say that this kind of pay would incentivize anyone to step up, to serve. The amount of time, the effort that each of you puts in, that whoever fills that seat over there is going to put in starting very soon, I couldn't expect them as a resident of this city to do that kind of work for free. So I will support this tonight. I didn't anticipate the school committee piece of this. I think it's nice that we tried to package this together. They do have a separate process, and I do want to respect their process and learn a little bit more about that. I think that that's something that we can work on. But I see no reason to commit the next council to this level of pay, given the amount of work that's expected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Conti.
It is a lot of work.
It is.
It is a lot of work. And I don't want to discourage anyone from becoming a city councilor. My motivation 14 years ago to become a councilor was many reasons, one of which is I wanted to know what the hell was going on. And boy, this is the place to find out what's going on. So in the 14 years that I've been a city council, I think we've got 1 or 2 raises, and every time it's never the right time to do a raise. It's always contentious. And Councilor Blair, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's coincidental that the 2 old men of the council have the exact same opinion about this job. But this job is different for everybody who serves. And I've said this to some councilors sitting here tonight, that every city council sets their own job description. You decide how much you're going to put into the city council. You decide what you're going to do on this council. In addition to the salary that we receive, we also have the option for health insurance, which is a very big, big, big benefit. Before I became a city councilor, my family was spending $1,600 a month on health insurance alone. It was the single largest expense in our self-employment. I don't use the city health insurance because I'm employed by another municipality. But I don't think a higher pay is going to bring in more qualified counselors. I don't think a higher pay is going to bring in counselors that are more motivated to work. I remember long conversations with counselors now dead that said to me the quality of counselors dropped when the city decided to pay them and put them on the health insurance package. They're gone. Times have changed. Times have changed dramatically, even just since the 14 years that I've been on this board. And I think this was all precipitated by the comment one night that I made that after 14 years of being on the council with the lavish pay that we received, my retirement check, now that I'm 70 years old, and if I'm deciding to retire, is a whopping $562 a year. That's not even going to buy a tank of oil. So Peter's right. I'm sorry, Councilor Blair is right.
Peter's fine.
You don't do this job for the money. You do this job for the service. Service above self. Service above self. That's what this job is all about. So, other communities are paying their counselors more. I get it. I get it. My counselors in Taunton are earning almost $20,000. But I stand with my decision to not support this because it's not budgeted. I'm the finance chair. You can't expect me to support a measure for something that we haven't budgeted for. So I'm recommending that you turn this down and that come back with changing the salaries to $20,000 in the next term, not for the sitting councils, but in 2027, when it's already changed the ordinances, it's kicking in later, and the mayor knows that that needs to be budgeted for, and take that jump rather than the gradual little increases, because that's just a compromise. The gradual little, yes, the salaries need to be adjusted compared to our peers that are serving in government, because times have changed. And I've always been concerned about the quality of councils sitting on this horseshoe. But I also know I can't influence them. You know, it's you decide to do what you're going to do here, and $20,000 is going to help you make that decision. Plus health insurance, now you're talking $45,000 a year. That's a significant compensation.
Yeah.
And that concludes my comments.
Councilor Dolan.
So just to be clear on the health insurance, any counselor here that has health insurance has to pay for it. It takes the entire stipend.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're parlaying it on top of our
No.
No.
I paid 75%.
no.
You only pay 25% of that fee.
Correct.
Right, which is the entire stipend.
And then some.
I'm not arguing that point, but it's a
Oh,
$20,000
yeah,
$1,000.
but he like doubled, you know, made it a $40-something thousand salary, when indeed we pay for the health insurance, which is the entire stipend plus $50 or whatever it
Something
is.
like that.
So anyway, just to clarify to
Thank you for
anybody,
clarifying.
I'm kind of thrown by the school committee thing too. Like, I'm just like, what happened that it was, and then I have a second question, because I believe there was a previous counselor that tried to tie the council pay to something, so it just goes up occasionally.
2010.
Right,
10% of the mayor's salary at that
One
time.
moment.
and that didn't pass at that point, I believe, and that was quite some time ago.
Never voted.
Do you have a follow-up question, Councilor Dolan?
So I'd like to know, please, about the school committee. Like, I just feel like it's not clear to me, and Councilor Bennett everybody made excellent points. I mean, I think this is difficult, you know. I don't know. I'd like an answer on the school committee, because I kind of feel weird and uncomfortable that they're not part of this.
Counselor Angelo, would you like to reply?
Let me explain. All right, I did all the research on this. So I really wasn't comfortable saying this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it since I did all the research. So I did all the comparables. I took, we knew what Taunton was, we knew what New Bedford was, we knew what Fall River was. But what I did is I took all the comparables, similar cities to Attleboro, looked at all that. I spoke to council presidents and also got what is the school committee making and what is the city council making. I found that everybody, I'll reiterate, I found that everybody on the city council is working half the amount of days that we're working and being paid more than twice with a with an increase every year that caps off at 5%. I spoke to the mayor and they didn't want to do, the administration didn't want to do a cost of living raise. So that was comparable. Okay, let's not do the cost of living raise, but let's do this. All my numbers on the school committee came back to me that was comparable, was they're getting paid on what they should be getting paid. So that's why I said, I went to the city council and said, I'm sorry, the school committee and said, I need you guys to research and to help me out and prove me wrong and do some of your research and get something that I might be missing somewhere. And nothing was responded back to me. I spoke to several of them, didn't want to get into it. And finally, someone did get back to me and said, okay, we're going to have one of our people, we're going to have them look into it. They came back to a lot of some information to me, and none of it was comparable to what is comparable to Attleboro. So I went back and said, okay, I need some other information because this is not going to work. And I have not gotten a response back on that at all. So I've done everything I could. I reached out. I could have easily just struck it down and said, no, this is where it's going to be. But I figured we're going to strike it down and then we're going to revisit this. But from my information is the school committee is being paid comparable to what other cities are being paid that are similar to Attleboro. So that's why that didn't go anywhere. And I didn't feel comfortable going and saying, okay, we're just going to put it in as a 50% raise just to do it for the sake of doing it because we're doing it on our end. I did it on our end because it made sense. It's what the information is, and I've said it before, if you're going to put something into my committee, I'm not going to sit there and just ignore it. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to research it, and I researched this. I got all the proper information, and this is what it came with. And you guys can do what you want to do. You can vote how you want to vote for it. I just put together the information. I've given you the information, and you guys vote with what you want to do.
Before I recognize Councilor Waterman, Councilor Angelo, thank you for that. And thank you for the work, because I know firsthand the amount of research you did put into this. I do want to also state that I don't think anyone's saying that anyone doesn't deserve the raise. We all work hard. We all put a lot into it. But thank you for that clarification. Councilor Waterman, then Councilor Bennett.
Well, it's been helpful for me to listen to just about everybody in this room talk. And you have helped me think it through a little bit more this evening. One thing that hasn't been mentioned is the inflation rate since 2010, which is 39%. So that would keep us even with where we were back in 2010, if we only went up that much. I also agree with Councilor Conti that it is not in the budget, and it needs to be in the budget. And it concerns me that we're not bringing this up with the school committee. I believe they're not quite ready yet to make a decision and to come forward with us. And I believe that we should be doing that together when the time comes. So I would look forward to this being in the 2025 budget, and I would quite likely support it at that time. However it comes out, I don't think the timing is quite right yet, but we do deserve it.
Councilor Bennett.
I think the comments tonight are really thoughtful. I just want to remind the councilors and the folks listening at home, none of us are guaranteed to be here in January. We're not voting ourselves a raise. We're voting for the next council and the council seated after that to have a small incremental increase in pay. very small incremental increase in pay. When I did the math out, when I figured out after taxes what that additional amount would be, it's pretty small. This is not adding a significant amount. $2,000 spread over 12 months times your tax rate, right? Anybody can figure that out. What we need to think about here is that there's never a good time or a right time to do this. We either start moving this in the right direction, or we continue to set a trend where this city falls behind, where we're not honoring the service of our public servants. I'm not talking about me, and I know several of you may still be up in the air about whether you're running again. But for anybody sitting in this seat after me, I think this is the right thing to do. That's it.
Councilor Reynolds and Councilor Dolan.
So, I think everybody makes valid points, but I do believe that, first of all, I want to thank Counselor, my fellow counselor here, for all the work that he has done. And it's got to be frustrating to hear people say, well, I didn't know about the school. I mean, I think he talked about the school. I've heard him talk about the school not coming forward and doing, or not ready to make a decision that they can do it on their own whenever. So he did discuss that. I agree with Councilor Conti when he says it's not in the budget, but this isn't our real budget yet. We all know that. That's going to happen again in the fall. This is just basically the preliminary. And it's not like the discussion wasn't had with the mayor and the auditor, who said, hey, I'm with you, give us $20,000. But that was a no-no. Don't even go there. Don't even go there, everybody said, even though we'd be making about what everybody else is doing. But so he didn't go there. He went with a very minimal amount that still puts us last on the totem pole. Okay. I think that all of us here definitely, if you want to run, you're going to run again, whether you get it or not. It doesn't, I go with Kelly there. It's not about us. It's about the fact that we constantly say that we're deserving of something, and yet we're the last people. Never does anybody, no one's come forward and said, geez, let's give no one has done that. Who's going to do that? We're the only ones that can do that. So you finally put it on the table, and then 10 years ago, almost 11, 12 years ago, it was on the table, and it didn't happen. Not even a little bit. It didn't happen. So here we are this time, and we're not going to let it, or might not let it happen again. So I am with Kelly that we were given the go-ahead for that much every year for 3 years. And again, I'm with you, Rick, it's minimal. It's not like we're going to all become millionaires because this is happening to us. And I do think that it's reasonable to suggest that everybody sitting around this circle should get a cost of living. It's barely even a cost of living increase between 2010 and what will be 2024 if it were to stop. It's not even a cost of living increase. So I think that the mayor gave her blessing for 3 years, as did the city auditor, and that's her saying, yes, they can put that in the budget come the fall, and it wouldn't even start till January 2024. So those are my comments.
Councilor Dolan, then Vice President Cobus.
Through the president, can you explain the 18-month thing again to me?
You can't vote, it's really, you're talking 18 months, you're talking 2022 and 2023. You cannot vote it in the term that you are serving. Like,
So
it can't be, it has to be,
So it would have to be
you have to vote it
2026.
now for it to be 24 and 25. You have to vote, or if it didn't happen, then 24, 25 comes along, and it can't be that year, those years, it's got to go to 26, 27.
Thank you.
I believe, just to add on to that, so it's not the appearance that
That's right.
after an election.
Got it,
voting
you're
has to-
sitting there, yeah, I got
Correct,
it.
To Councilor
Exactly.
Bennett's earlier
Which makes
point. Yep.
perfect sense.
Vice President Cobus.
Can you talk to me about when the absolute latest date is for us to vote on this measure?
I believe it's June 30th.
You are correct, sir.
So we have several meetings between now and then.
If possible, once this discussion's over, I'd like to rescind my second if that's okay, so that we could understand more the school committee side of what's going on there, and to, if that's okay, and get a little bit more information. And I'd personally like a little bit more time, if that's okay.
Counselor Angelo.
What more information would you like from the school committee that I've already given you? Just so I'll be clarified and I'll know exactly what I need to get, because I think I've gotten everything that I could get.
I'd like to know what the comps were and what their suggestions are, or what their delay or concerns were with moving forward now.
I can tell you right now, the comps that I got were all
Equivalent. Yeah, I understand. And
yeah, their comps, there were no comps. There was just, well, several cities and what they're getting paid. I could certainly forward that to the whole council, but like I said, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's irrelevant.
May be irrelevant to you, may not be irrelevant to others.
Okay.
Councilor Holmes, I don't know if you had your hand raised at all, or if you'd like to add to the conversation. Okay.
Just like this.
I'm gonna support that.
Transport this. Okay, thank you. Vice President Cobus.
And I would also like confirmation that we would be able to find the money in the budget, and potentially to alleviate the budget concerns as well. That would be another piece of information. That would
So
be
you
valuable.
rescinding your second?
If there's no other
You
conversation.
would have to ask to have it rescinded, wouldn't you?
I can do it as the
Oh, okay.
presiding officer.
All right.
Then, yes, I'm rescinding my second.
Okay. So this will go back. We can discuss either in committee Tuesday night, get some additional information. I think everyone made some really valid points tonight. So thank you for the discussion. I think that we were able to have a discussion that was professional. It was driven on the merits of the piece of business. So thank you. Councilor Angelo, any additional business in front of Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services?
That is all for Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, and call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Blair.
Public Safety Emergency Management has no business this evening and call for committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Conti, Senior Tax Abatement.
I would like to cancel the Committee on Special Tax Abatements has no business to bring before the council.
Thank you.
The measure that is in front of the committee is currently being debated on the House floor, and may eliminate the need for us to have a committee. And that concludes my comments for the Special Tax Committee.
Councilor Angelo, Special Committee on Comp and on Comp.
We have no business for classification comp, and call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. There is no old business, there is no new business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We'll have a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Waterman.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes?
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Oh,
She's gone. Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Delicia.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. We're adjourned at 8:52.
Mr. President, it's Thursday.